Hey everybody, Dennis Prager here with Fireside Chat number
358.
I didn't even move my lips and you heard the number. By the way, do you know who said 358, folks? That is Jeff, the new Megan. It's not so new now. Yeah, Megan's building a family, God bless her. She's in Georgia, I believe. Georgia, yeah. And we think of her often. If you're watching, we miss you and we send you a big hug. Anyway, Mr. Tubbs is here. Just wanted you to know. I'm sure you didn't miss that, but I want you to know that I'm aware. And if he were right here, I'd be rubbing him, but he's not right here. Okay, so on, I don't know, very few occasions out of the 358, maybe 5 times, you think? I've just taken questions.
Probably more.
Yeah, 10 times, maybe one out of, so that would be 1 out of 35. Like that math? So that's what I'm going to do today because there are too many good questions and I'll never get to them if I don't bunch them up. So we'll start with the video question. Okie dokie, take it away.
Hi, my name is Katie, and I live in Wisconsin. My question for the founder is, in an episode, you had stated that in the 10 Commandments, it says that thou shalt not murder, not thou shalt not kill. And so I've been wondering, is abortion killing or murder? Thank you for everything you guys do. I've been listening for a long time, and you've changed my life for the better. You've changed my mind for the better, and I am so appreciative. Thank you so much.
So that was really sweet. Thank you. That is such an important question, and almost nobody asks it. So I'm going to say things which some of you may find a bit troubling, but I have to say it because I have no credibility with you if I think before I give any idea or any answer, gee, how will it be received? I can't think that way. I don't want to build this up like I'm going to say something beyond the pale, but the language with regard to abortion is a very, very morally complex issue. So let me just say it at the outset, I believe we're dealing with a human life. Okay, forget believe. I think the word believe is a little silly. It's either true or not true. Belief is a theological question. Whether or not the creature, the being that a woman who is pregnant is carrying is a human life is not it may well be a reflection of one's theology, but it's either accurate or not accurate. It's so I'm totally okay with saying on occasion, you know what, it is clear that this position comes from a religious view. To give an example, the opposition to same-sex marriage is overwhelmingly based on the religious belief that the divine order is a man marrying a woman. Okay, that's religious. You can't argue it. There's an objective reality to it. It's a construct. But there is an objective reality to what it is that a woman who is pregnant is carrying. It's either human or not human. If it's not human, what is it? Is it a peanut? Is it an animal but not human? Is it nothing and it becomes a human? I mean, that question, it would seem to me, would have a scientific answer, just as are you a man or a woman has a science answer. It's not, if we dismiss the idea that you are the sex you think you are, or if the new terminology, the gender you think you are, that's the postmodern idea that we make up reality. If I say to you, I'm a woman, I may think I am a woman, but I'm not a woman. I'm not objectively a woman. That doesn't mean you should maltreat me or anything like that. But there has to be some objective answer. The notion that sex/gender is entirely subjective is unscientific and is truly absurd. What it is that a pregnant woman, or for that matter, a pregnant hippopotamus is carrying has an objective reality. What would we say? Let's take my hippopotamus example. What is a pregnant hippopotamus carrying? One assumes the answer is a hippopotamus fetus. If fetus means the unborn being that is being carried by the pregnant mother. Nobody would argue that it's not a hippopotamus. What is she carrying if not a baby hippopotamus? So I just want to make it clear where I stand on what it is that a pregnant woman is carrying. Now you ask a correct question. Is it killing or is it murder? Well, the definition of murder that we normally use is premeditated taking of an innocent human life. Now, by that definition, if it's an innocent human life, then we would use the term murder. But people very rarely use the term murder. And why don't they? Well, I think one reason is that if we say that every woman who has an abortion has murdered a human being, it strikes me, I will admit it. It does, and I already made the case that this is a human that she's carrying, but it does strike me as not quite filling what I normally associate with the term murder. And by the way, there are ramifications. If every doctor who performs an abortion is a murderer, then many of them are mass murderers. And you can't have it both ways. You can't really say, yes, doctors who perform abortions are mass murderers, but we should not prosecute them. Is there any other example of a mass murderer or even the murderer of a single human being that we don't prosecute? My point there is that in some ways abortion is sui generis, which is the Latin term for its own unique thing. There's nothing quite like it. I don't know anybody who's pro-life who I'm not saying this person doesn't exist. I just don't know one who believes that all doctors who perform abortions should be put away in prison for life. And presumably all hospitals that allow that, they're facilitating mass murders. And what about the mother? She's an accessory to not mass murder, but to murder. So we don't use that language because even we in the pro-life community do recognize it as somewhat different than regular murder. And, technically it isn't, but somehow we recognize that it is. And that's the reason we don't say murder, and even people don't usually say kill. It's more often said, but sort of we take the baby's life is the language that people are more, I think, morally comfortable with. I'll give you an example that of language I never used, that the tens of millions of abortions in America since the decision allowing abortion, called for those of you outside of America, it's called Roe v. Wade, Roe versus Wade. That was the Supreme Court case. So I read periodically, even somewhat frequently, the term Holocaust is used. Hitler killed 6 million Jews. The Nazis killed 6 million Jews, and Americans have killed, 30, 40, whatever million. Our Holocaust is beyond belief. That's what people will often say. I've never used the term Holocaust, but I'd like to tell you why. Because though I am pro-life and see no argument against the pro-life position, I do believe there is ultimately a moral difference. And I therefore wouldn't use the term Holocaust. And this is where I said it might be jolting, but I don't mean to jolt you, and I may well be wrong, but I'd like to offer my thought on it, because language is all we have. I've often thought, let us say that instead of 6 million Jews murdered, because that's the most famous Holocaust, instead of 6 million Jews murdered, what the Nazis would have done is they would have performed an abortion on every pregnant Jewish woman between 1941 and 1945, the years of the Holocaust. I think Jews would have regarded that as an obscenity and as evil, but it wouldn't have come close to the Holocaust. It would have been evil and wrong, but it would not have anywhere near the resonance of the Holocaust. And I'll tell you why. Because there are gradations of evil. I think this is my key point, or one of my key points. There are gradations of evil. If I murder somebody's child, their 5-year-old child, their 40-year-old child, but their child, versus that I have aborted, even forcibly aborted their child, there is a difference. People know that there is a difference. For one thing, because we have an emotional bond with a born human being. And you could say, well, women bond with their unborn. Yes, to a certain extent that is true, but it's not the same extent. And ask any parent who might have had the tragedy of both a miscarriage and the death of a child, if she would be honest, which caused you the greater pain? I don't think it would be measurable, the greater pain of the child versus the unborn. So there is gradation of pain, there is gradation of evil. So the language that we use, I don't know what language we can use. Murder doesn't quite work, because if you really believe it's murder, why would you not prosecute these people, both the mother and the doctor? So what is correct technically or legally may not be correct morally, and certainly not emotionally. So you've asked a very powerful question, and obviously I've thought about this a lot, because this is not a spontaneous answer. I have thought about this a lot. And that's why I am pro-life, but do not use the term murder and do not use the term Holocaust. So it's one of these, abortion is a unique arena. I'll give one more example of again, gradations of evil. I am not for having euthanasia as legal. I'm opposed to it. But do I believe that taking the life of a person who has no longer can think, has no self-awareness, and is in horrible pain, is taking that person's life the same as taking another person's life? Is it morally identical? Of course not. Even though technically it's deliberately taking the life of an innocent person. But there are circumstances under which I wouldn't want my life continued. That's why people have living wills. So it does come down to, in part, the question that I have had a fascinating, decades-long debate with many of my listeners on the question of, are there gradations of evil, which is its own subject. I'm ending up giving a whole opening talk just on this question. Many listeners to my show over the years have said to me, I don't agree with you, Dennis. And normally there'd be a person who does agree with me. There are no gradations of evil. In God's eyes, all sin is the same. It's rebellion against God. I know their words. That's why I'm repeating their words, because I've heard it so often. And I have my usual question. So you think, I would say to the person calling me, you really believe that God doesn't see a moral difference between raping and strangling a 5-year-old versus taking a stapler from the office? Does everybody know what a stapler is? I don't, it's not used that often as, taking, I don't know what, a mouse, a mouse. The keyboard's really expensive. But I'm taking this very seriously. The God I believe in does not view the rape and murder of a child, or an adult for that matter, but I'm giving you a really brazen example of evil, as morally equivalent to taking a mouse from the office, stealing a mouse. Stealing is wrong. I believe it's wrong. You believe it's wrong. God believes it's wrong. But there's a logical reason that we don't have the same penalty for stealing something of minimal cost, or of any cost for that matter, and raping and murdering a child. Of course, I believe God has gradations of evil. If God doesn't have gradations of evil, why did he give the 10 Commandments? He just should have said, don't do anything I don't approve of. But obviously isolated some really important ones. So there are gradations of evil. And that's why the terminology that is often used with abortion, that equates it to the most monumental evils, may not be appropriate language. Whew. That was a toughie. Thank you, Katie. Now we have Prager United. Thanks to you folks who are members of Prager United. First of all, you get a lot of your own wonderful perks by joining PragerUnited.com. But the other is you keep our work free, like the Fireside Chat. So please go to PragerUnited.com and check it out. And if you can, join. Thank you. One of their perks is they get the first question after the video question. This is from Brazil. Julia, 32 years old, in Curitiba, Brazil. Hello, Mr. Prager. Do you believe God has a specific plan for each one of us? Meaning he mapped out whoever we are going to marry, our children, work, etc., and that it would be up to us to find that plan out and follow it in order to live our best life? Do we have a predefined purpose in life? So for some reason, I think I addressed this very recently, but it doesn't matter. I don't expect everybody to remember everything I say. I don't remember everything I say. That is not my belief. It's funny that you should mention whom we marry. So there is there's an old Jewish, I wouldn't say saying, but concept. What has God been doing since he created the world? Since he stopped at the sixth day of creation? And there's a very interesting answer. He's been bringing couples together to get married. To which I've always had the following thought. One, it shows you how hard it is to bring couples together. That's what God's been busy with. Creating the universe, that's easy. Getting a couple together, that's really rough. So that's part of my enjoyment of that answer. The other is that he doesn't appear to always do a great job. A lot of people, it doesn't work out. But of course you will say, well, that's not the couple that God wanted to bring together, which is a very fair answer. That may well be. But let me ask you this, Julia. What is the difference between believing God has a partner for me and I am looking for the right partner for me? What is the real difference? Because clearly God does not supply vast numbers of people with the right partner. More and more people are marrying at all. And a lot of people marry and it's not the right partner. I mean, that's just a fact. If you find the right partner, I know my parents did. I feel I have for the last 20 years, but you can't say it was true before that. And this is no reflection either on whom I married then or on me. It's just it wasn't necessarily the right person. And I have a very sympathetic view to people for whom I feel bad for them if it doesn't work out. But so if God does have this partner, we still have to find them. It's not like God delivers your partner on your doorstep. So whether or not God has a partner for you, you have to find the person. And vast numbers of people don't find that person. So I'm not sure what that gives you, that a non-God-based view of whom you'll marry gives you. But even putting aside the issue of whom you'll find, the notion that God has a plan for my life, I don't have pro or con view. It's not how I lead my life. I believe that, and I know I said this on a recent Fireside Chat, but be that as it may. Most of what we have to do, God has already told us to do. In the famous statement of Micah the prophet in the Old Testament, "O man, has God not told you all he demands from you? To pursue justice, love righteousness, and walk humbly with your God." Why is that not sort of sufficient? That tells me what a good part of my life should be. Here's another one. So again, my religion is Judaism, so I'll use a Jewish example. When a Jewish boy or a girl, doesn't matter, is born, the traditional, this is thousands of years old, wish is, may the child grow up for Torah, Chuppah, U'Ma'asim Tovim, for Torah, marriage, and good deeds. So if you want to translate Torah as Bible or biblical values, biblical teachings, so essentially to anglicize it, the Bible, marriage, and good deeds. That's what God wants of all of us. Otherwise, what do people have in mind when they say that God has a plan for my life? That I be a doctor, that I be a carpenter, that I be, I'm not being at all cute, that I be an Uber driver. Does God have my vocation planned out? To those who feel that they are responding to a divine calling, I know Catholics who feel that God has called them, Catholic men, to be a priest. I don't negate that for a moment, that they have that calling and they believe it is from God. And who am I to say it isn't? But it's not. So that's a very subjective thing, whether you have that. But I don't think you should feel lost if you don't have a specific calling from God beyond living the type of life that I just described in those two statements, one from Micah and one from the traditional Jewish one. I wish everybody grew up and thought, oh, yes, I should have a Bible-based life, I should get married, and I should do good deeds. I happen to think that that's the greatest three suggestions for every human being in the world. But I never negate anyone who feels that God has called them. I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I could prove it because I actually kept a diary in high school, and I have the physical diary somewhere in my house. I have to find it again, but I know I have it. I wrote down in my junior year in high school, I know what I want to do with my life. I want to influence people to the good. Those were the words I used, the good. Now, did I believe it was from God? I didn't write that, and I didn't think that way. I just thought God would be pleased with me if I did that. But I didn't know, did God pick me to do that? It was not the way I thought. But if I thought it'd be fine. All right. We still have time, right? One more. Here I make an opening announcement. Oh, good. I'll take somebody. It's really sad. Okay. Adam, 22 years old, Los Angeles, California. Hi, Dennis. Why did you start doing the Fireside Chat? And what drives you to continue to do the show? Actually, ironically, I just gave the answer, what drives me to continue, because I want to influence people to the good. It's so powerful a force in me that I never get tired. It's the energy level that you perceive in me, and I think would for all 358 thus far, is genuine. It's not like as soon as I finish this, I'm just going to go into, some sedate mood. I have a lot of energy. It's a blessing. I'm profoundly grateful for it, but it emanates from my belief that I do have an important task to try to fulfill. I don't know why the Fireside Chat started. I guess they just thought at PragerU that it would be a good idea to have me do something every week. Right? Which makes sense. It is called PragerU for a reason related to me. But it like everything else at PragerU, it has blossomed beyond anything one could imagine. Half the questions here are from different places around the world. Literally half. I just got an invitation to speak in Albania. And that does bring me great comfort, I will say, even joy. Because I will end with this. If this sounds arrogant, I'll live with it. It's not, it doesn't come from at anything arrogant whatsoever. I do believe that I have a lot of answers. I don't have all the answers by any means. I don't know why God made the mosquito, among many things I don't know. But I do believe that I have really helpful things. And in fact, ironically, I'm much more frustrated by how many people I haven't touched than I am exhilarated by the number of people I have touched. I much more think of how much I didn't do than how much I did do. And it doesn't depress me, but I just want you to know that I'm well aware. I'm well aware, and this does, is the word trouble right? I don't know, but it does bother me. So it's like trouble. Yeah, it does somewhat. I feel, and this is, Marissa cites this all the time about me. Marissa Stride, our terrific CEO. I have often felt that I was like someone who had a cure for cancer. But the biggest problem was he or she couldn't get it out. How do you publicize it? That's how I feel. I feel I have a solution to moral cancer. And the great dilemma of my life was, how do I get it out to more people? PragerU has been a great blessing in that regard. Okay. Maybe I'll do more questions next week. Thanks for being with me, and I'll see you next week.